This game was really good. Developers managed to suck me in the game, and with various techniques they made me feel like on the edge, like I'm almost lost, but I make it, and those deliberately close moments were quite a few. They got the game atmosphere right. Okay, let's start with actual game. Story of game starts as woman is preparing for a space shuttle launch. As operator through protagonist's radio introduces, Earth is in a bad shape. There are a lot of powerful sandstorms, much of Earth uninhabitable, and deserts cause of these storms are spreading. So humanity had a hope with their new project, a giant power station on Moon. There they gathered helium-3 and used it for fusion reactor. Then energy was transferred back to Earth. So before 5 years something happened on the Moon and energy disappeared. Small crew who were in orbit tried to restore it, but with no avail. So there for some reason were no efforts made officially to try to send a crew to Moon. So in secret a relatively small team built a rocket over these 5 years, and now is time to try to find out. First task was to start up the rocket. Had to do small puzzle solving as I had to disconnect fuel feed from rocket. Then operator said that violent sandstorm is coming in, faster than thought before. So had to get to rocket fast. Here developers put in a time limit. I was a bit worried as a natural thing with those time limits, but this was nothing compared to what comes later. So when I got in rocket, had to do pre-flight procedure, and I just loaded that this is included. It gradually builds up feeling like I really am that who are in this story. So rocket is launched in space, and then I had to disconnect unnecessary rocket parts. Afterwards had to manually connect to Orbital moon station. There was first time introduced oxygen time limit. It is about 3 minutes. And you had to make in time. Here at first room I had to do some puzzle solving. Basically I needed to unlock a door leading further in station, but I had only one power source. For a while I stuck here until was that aha moment how to actually get the second one to unlock those doors. So after some wandering around station and doing some stuff, I ended up to this challenge. And I mean, this was a challenge. I had to get power modules to open a door, but to get those I had to get past obstacles. The first one was easy, but the second two was tricky ones. Basically, the wires were electrified, so if you accidentally touch, you get damage and you are thrown back. But if behind you also are wires, as that was here, you are done. And for me it happened like 5 times until I managed to do it. Biggest pain was to redo everything I did before, and here also can be felt the lack of saving where player wants, because game saves only in checkpoints. After modules were in place, protagonist tries to open doors and this was shock moment for me. Game surprised me very well. Had to try few times until I understood that I had to grab some objects, because moment when to press key is relatively short. Then comes next thing, you had to make it to safety, and oh man, that was nerve-wracking experience. They had perfected the timing. You just had to make it almost a perfect run. Grab some oxygen canisters on the way, and there was this one spot where I thought, yes, a lot of oxygen will be less stressful. And then bam! And all of it is gone, and my oxygen gets red, and it is dropping lower and lower. And when I somehow managed to reach the end at this run, there were already near last seconds of oxygen. So, oh my god, this was good, very good timing. It really put me on the edge. Here are super elevator on moon. So when protagonist arrives on moon, she finds out that to travel further she need power, and to get that she had to aim power transmit towers to base. Also on this base are first clues as this power shutdown was intentional.
Like this.
I'm not asking. Get her on the ship.
What? Is this really?
So after some puzzle solving, I got access to Moon Vehicle Bay and I could take one. In first two towers were pretty chill. On third one were heat blowout shafts and there had to be careful, but on other hand oxygen is running out, so you had to make in time. As power were restored, protagonist used monorail train to travel further, but train stopped at one checkpoint station and had to solve some problems to get the train move again. The challenging part there was this puzzle where had to get all lights to blue ones, so it took a while for me to figure out that. If I had to say how I did that, then don't ask me. I don't know. I tried until I made it. So on further trip to Tombahau facility, protagonist encounters misaligned tracks and I had to press buttons in right time. Of course I missed the first time. Even the second time I messed up. You just had to react really fast. Especially when had to pull those brakes. Once those dangerous places are behind, protagonist ends up in another facility. Along the way are some clues what happened here, and I started to glimpse the whole story. Basically, they were preparing for some kind of trip to new colony, and they gathered all available helium-3 reserves.
Why are you here? Have you been watching me with that thing? Are you going to the domes? And Huygens? Everyone.
Colonists, we're here for your safety. Official orders of the Lunar Council.
Especially the...
Damn it. What are you laughing about? For the first time, I know everything. No more secrets. And all it took was one little switch. That was it all along.
Don't mind him. Let's get out of here.
I just had to see what you were up to. And now I know.
So to get further, I needed to power the rails again. So I had to go out again to align power tower correctly. First tower can't be accessed because it was out of power. So I could not open the door. So I had to go for second one. On this tower there were a bit challenging to get up due to many heat blowout shafts. Got through with one death. So I aimed to first tower and then I spawned near moon vehicle. There were timer again. I actually thought nothing of it because when I will get into moon vehicle my oxygen will refill, and it didn't refill. At this moment I really was shocked and first thought was, oh my god, I'm so far away from the tower, how I will make it. So I drive fast as I could to get to the tower, and when I get in the tower, of course there also was no oxygen refill. And another surprise was that tower had damaged stairs, so I had to jump multiple times, and I messed up one time and I died, and I thought need to redo everything, but thanks God it had saved before I entered the tower. One thing I kept asking myself, did it actually save those seconds also? Because if I wasted those from that trip from second tower to first tower, and if then those were saved, then it would be impossible to complete. Then I would be screwed. So I got to top and time was running out. On top of that, all that tower had angled on one side and it was hard to aim. But I did it, and I thought that was close call. Can it even go worse? And it did go worse. I got a cutscene where tower slammed to ground when protagonist woke up. Had only like almost few seconds, and this was run for oxygen canisters to survive. I mean, this was intense. Second really intense moment on this game really put me on edge. I think they probably spent quite a time to just get this timing right. As power is restored, trip to Tombahau facility continues. At facility also was intense moment when I had to pull brakes at right time. There were some puzzles along the way to facility entrance. At Tombahau, our first and thanks God last encounter with an enemy, an evil drones. Those will use deadly means to stop anyone passing by. This was a challenge at first, but basically you had to figure out the movement of drones and move accordingly. Once you got that, the rest is easy. So I had to explore some rooms and figure out how to get further. Here was a tricky task. Basically you had to get a large cargo cart from sleeping quarters and use it to crush the wall. Also some doors deactivated and had to find an alternative path. Further on, some cutscenes and puzzle solving. One task was kinda tricky one, because I had to cross pool of water, switch on power, but as I did that, pool get electrified. So after I messed up with some controls, it became slow pulsating electricity. So I had to get through the pool while avoiding incoming electricity pulses. Next I had to crash the train, then feed in helium-3 tank to reactor, and then the process starts. Basically this is beginning of game ending. So this reactor scene were pretty epic. First of all, at first reactor level was radiation or heat, which can kill protagonist. When reactor was activated from computer behind it, it started to give violent blast pulses and had to escape those. At this moment I also had like realistic question. Why to put reactor controls in this dangerous place? I know, this is a game, but you know, when game makes you to believe in it and when you see something illogical, then it kinda ruins it a bit. But nevertheless, scene was epic and I loved that. One of things that really put that immersive feeling was the sounds of reactor. Next was no oxygen zone, where was rotating thing of a reactor, and that was impressive, but was pretty easy to pass. On next floor had to avoid being hit by electrified rotor, but here the most tricky part was to make this jump. It had to be made almost ideal jump. I failed here more than like 5 times. Once you get past it, our next floor, where our computer to kinda guide the energy to transmission part, but here occurs a big explosion. And protagonist is hurt very bad. Next part you had to make to computer to aim the transmitter to one who will transmit energy to Earth. So this is a tricky part. I messed up first time because protagonist every few seconds will partially pass out and you lose the control of joystick and it leans to some direction. So you had to make constant corrections. That is like fight with yourself, and here they made it pretty well. So as it is done, energy is transferred to Earth and pretty much game ends here. There was one additional scene afterwards also. I had to say that I am giving here only small part of whole story of the game. You just had to play it for your own to really enjoy it. It is worth it.